Check your reflection. Look at what Remy Ma became. Check your reflection again. Look at what Remy Ma became. Is this really about love? Or is this about a room with only 3 people in it? You, him, and whoever he answers to when the camera's cut. Because listen, after this whole staged black love commercial got repackaged and slapped on you and him like a bumper sticker, that man is not your husband. That man is your handler, sis. And I want you to sit with that word until it starts to itch. Family, welcome back. If this is your first time landing on this channel, my name is on the door and the kettle stays whistling. Today we are opening a file that Jaguar Wright cracked wide open, and I promise you I had to run this clip back 4 separate times because the woman said something so precise it felt like she was reading somebody's mail out loud in a courtroom. Before I go one syllable further, tap that subscribe, smash the like, and drop me a comment down below because I need to know if you believe the handler theory holds water or if you think folks are stacking too much onto one man's shoulders. There is no neutral seat in this conversation. Pick a side and put it in the comments. Now, let me set the table properly, because if you do not understand what Jaguar Wright actually said, you are going to miss the earthquake underneath it. Jaguar Wright did not call Papoose a boyfriend. Jaguar Wright did not call Papoose a manager. Jaguar Wright did not call Papoose a husband. Jaguar Wright called Papoose a handler. And in the same breath, when Maserati Bud, the same Maserati Bud who was allegedly parked inside Claressa Shields' living room on Christmas Day, sipping something warm while she was on FaceTime with the man himself, was asked a single direct question, are they in love? That man delivered a one-word obituary. No, not maybe, not I think so, not it is complicated. No, and I need you to understand something about that no. That no came from the closest seat in the house. That no came from a man who has literally watched the choreography from the front row. When the witness with the best sightline in the room hands you a one-word verdict, you do not argue with it. You write it down. Look here, once you swallow that word, the entire Claressa Shields situation starts wearing a different outfit. Because now every dinner picture, every beach post, every FaceTime call, every awkward little marketing rollout starts looking less like a romance and more like a rollout. And a rollout, family, always has a director. Somebody is holding the clapboard. Somebody is calling action. And somebody is deciding when the scene ends. Jaguar Wright dropped a metaphor in the middle of her breakdown that I need you to tattoo on your brain. She said Remy Ma is the cast iron skillet and Claressa is the paper plate. Now she used different words, but the anatomy of the metaphor is exactly this. Remy Ma walked into every room already seasoned. Remy Ma was already fully cooked before anybody set the table. You did not have to teach Remy Ma how to be Remy Ma. Claressa, by contrast, has no flavor of her own until somebody sprinkles something on her. Claressa is whatever the seasoning tells her to be, and the person holding the shaker is the person who owns the plate. That is not a shot at Claressa Shields' talent inside the ring. Claressa Shields can absolutely throw hands. Claressa Shields is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and she has fought some of the toughest names in her division. But here is where Jaguar Wright's precision cut through the noise like a razor. Jaguar Wright brought up Christy Martin, and this is the part that nobody in this whole conversation has processed correctly. Christy Martin had over 50 documented professional fights on her record. Christy Martin was backed personally by Mike Tyson. Christy Martin had a moniker that the entire sport recognized. Christy Martin did not need a boyfriend, a manager, a handler, or a hashtag to convince anybody she was the greatest woman in her weight class, because Christy Martin's win column did the announcing for her. If your record is real, the record announces you. You do not have to walk around social media every Tuesday and Thursday defending a self-appointed title. If the greatest of all-time crown actually sits on your head, that crown should follow you like a shadow. You should not be carrying it around in a plastic bag and stopping strangers on Instagram to ask them if it looks straight. If the title needs a defense hearing every 7 days on somebody's live, the title is not real. The title is a costume, and costumes come off. Now listen, and I need you to hold on to something before I keep going, because it gets deeper. Jaguar Wright made another observation that a lot of people scrolled past, and this is the observation that connects every single dot in the entire situation. When Jaguar Wright was pressed on whether Papoose is doing a good job of guiding Claressa through the industry, she paused. And then she said, honestly, I cannot say he is. And that hesitation is louder than the answer. Because here is what nobody wants to say out loud. Every single industry connection that Claressa Shields has cultivated in the last several months, every rollout, every interview, every appearance, every collaboration, has run through one specific man. Not through her boxing management. Not through her long-term team. Not through her own established Rolodex. Through him. Every rope she has climbed, he tied the knot on. Every door she walked through, he cut the key. And when one person holds every rope in your life, family, you are not free. You are staffed. So then the question becomes, if that man is holding every rope, what is he getting paid in? Because handlers do not work for free. Handlers work for access, for narrative control, for the ability to redirect attention on command. And the man being described here, according to Jaguar Wright, is not just any handler. Jaguar Wright went further and further with this until she said something that made the room go cold. She said if he lost control of Remy Ma, all they are going to do is give him another woman to handle. And the next woman is Claressa Shields. Stop. Rewind that with me in your head. If he lost control of Remy, they gave him another one. Because that sentence is not a metaphor. That sentence is a job description. That sentence describes an assignment desk. And an assignment desk implies somebody up top writing the assignments. And when you look at the timeline, family, the timeline supports the theory in a way that is genuinely unsettling. The moment Remy Ma started publicly stepping out of formation, the moment Remy Ma started saying things that were not on any pre-approved script, the moment Remy Ma became narratively uncontrollable, a brand new woman appeared on the horizon running through the exact same man. That is not a slow evolution. That is not organic. That is a shift change. That timing didn't happen by accident. That is a rollout, and every rollout has a strategy document sitting on somebody's desk. Claressa Shields was not chosen because Claressa Shields is uniquely wonderful. Claressa Shields was assigned, and the assignment came down the pipeline the moment the previous asset went off script. Now, before you scroll away, because I know some of you are getting uncomfortable, let me remind you why you are here. You are here because Jaguar Wright looked directly into that camera and said something that most commentators would not touch with a rented poll. Jaguar Wright said this is not about love. Jaguar Wright said this is about clickbait. And Jaguar Wright said the woman being used is always the one defending the arrangement the loudest. Say that back to yourself. The woman being used is the one defending it the loudest. Because if that sentence is true, and I believe every syllable of it is, then every emotional moment Claressa Shields has broadcast this year, every live she cried on, every relationship she torched, every family member she publicly cut off, every friend she stopped speaking to, every breakdown she uploaded, every clapback she filmed while her mascara was still wet, all of that was somebody else's content strategy, not hers. Somebody else's views. Somebody else's monetization. Somebody else's relevance quarter. Claressa Shields is not the creator in this situation. Claressa Shields is the content. She is not holding the microphone. She is the microphone. And that is what makes the whole thing so hard to watch, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time Claressa Shields defends this man in public, she is not defending a partner. She is defending a supervisor. Every time Claressa Shields lashes out at somebody questioning the relationship, she is not protecting a marriage. She is protecting an operation. Jaguar Wright said something else that I want to pull out of the pile because it needs its own spotlight. Jaguar Wright said, check your cognitive abilities, not Remy Ma's. And a lot of people heard that as an insult. It is not an insult. It is a diagnosis. Jaguar Wright is not saying Claressa Shields is stupid. Jaguar Wright is saying Claressa Shields is being managed so smoothly that the management has become invisible even to Claressa Shields herself. That is the most dangerous kind of control. That is the kind of control where the person being handled thinks they are the one making all the decisions. Because if you were being handled and you knew it, you would push back. You would ask questions. You would check the receipts. But when the handler is doing the job well, the handled subject defends the handler like family. The handled subject burns down her own life for the handler. The handled subject turns on her mother, her siblings, her friends, her business partners, her original community, anybody who threatens the arrangement. And the closer the danger gets to the arrangement, the louder the defense becomes. Now let us bring Maserati Bud back into the room, because I have not forgotten about Maserati Bud. Maserati Bud is the receipt. Maserati Bud is the tape. Maserati Bud is the witness who was sitting in a chair that he allegedly helped pick out, on a couch in a living room he allegedly frequents, while the woman of the house was on FaceTime with the man everybody keeps calling her fiancé. And when somebody put the direct question in front of him, are they in love? That man did not stutter, did not hedge, did not spin. He said no. That no is the most expensive word in this entire situation, because it did not come from an enemy. It did not come from a hater. It did not come from a jealous ex. It came from somebody who has been in the building. It came from somebody who has heard the private tone. It came from somebody who watches the two of them behind the curtain when the phones are down. And that person, when asked the one question that matters, said no. And Jaguar Wright, sensing the whole architecture cracking, said something else that landed like a courtroom gavel. Jaguar Wright said, shame on you, Papoose. And I want you to understand what she was actually shaming him for. Because it is not just about Claressa Shields. It is about the entire brand that this man built. Because remember, this is a man who spent almost 2 decades presenting himself to the internet as the model-devoted husband. Prison visits, public celebrations, front-row loyalty, tears at award shows, anniversary speeches, interviews about how nobody else would ever compare. That was the merchandise. That was the persona. That was the product on the shelf. And now, that same devotion, word for word, prop for prop, gesture for gesture, has been transferred to a completely different woman. Same tears, same speeches, same devotion, same rollout, different name at the top of the receipt. And here's the thing that makes it uncomfortable. If the devotion was ever real, it does not transfer. Real devotion is not a template. Real devotion is not a franchise. Real devotion cannot be copy-pasted onto the next assignment. When the exact same performance appears with a different lead actress, that is not devotion. That is a role. That is a repeatable act. That is a job the man knows how to do because he has done it before. And the witness with the closest seat to the new production, when asked if the new production is real, said no. Which brings me back to the deepest layer. And this is the part one need you to sit with, because this is the part that changes how you look at every celebrity relationship on your feed. Jaguar Wright did not just accuse one man of being a handler. Jaguar Wright accused a system of running handlers. Jaguar Wright said this is bigger than one couple. Jaguar Wright said when one asset gets replaced, they hand the handler a new asset. Which means there is a pool. Which means there is a rotation. Which means there is a boardroom somewhere deciding who gets which handler and for how long and to what end. You do not have to accept every word of that theory. But you do have to admit that the pattern is real, because we have watched it play out on our timelines for years. A woman rises. A woman gets attached to a specific man. That specific man appears to guide her career. The woman starts saying things that break the pattern. The woman is quietly reduced. The woman gets replaced. The specific man reappears attached to a new woman. Rinse. Repeat. Rebrand. That is not paranoia, family. That is pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is what separates the people who see the industry clearly from the people who fall for every rollout the industry hands them. Now let me address the elephant in the room, because I know some of you are typing already. Some of you are saying, but Claressa Shields is a grown woman. She can make her own choices. Why are we treating her like she is being controlled? And I hear you. That critique deserves an answer. So here's my answer. Being a grown woman does not make you unhandleable. Being a grown woman does not make you immune to influence. Being a grown woman does not mean the people around you are not steering the wheel while you think you are driving. Some of the most sophisticated handling operations in the entertainment industry have been run on some of the most powerful women in the entertainment industry. Wealth does not protect you. Fame does not protect you. Talent does not protect you. In fact, in a lot of cases, wealth, fame, and talent are the exact things that make you a valuable enough target to handle in the first place. You do not put a handler on a nobody. You put a handler on an asset. And an Olympic gold medalist with a global platform and a growing brand and a hungry audience is, by every measurable metric, an asset. So the question is not whether Claressa Shields is important enough to be handled. The question is who wrote the assignment. Jaguar Wright pointed at one man. Jaguar Wright named him. Jaguar Wright described his moves, his associations, his affiliations, his gestures, his network. And Jaguar Wright said if you take him off Claressa, they will hand him somebody else within a season. Because he is not the boss. He is a middle manager. And middle managers do not decide the strategy. Middle managers execute the strategy. Now let me bring the receipts full circle, because I want to leave you with a picture you cannot delete from your brain. Picture this. Picture a woman who was once considered untouchable in her lane. Picture Remy Ma. Picture the version of Remy Ma who was the queen of the culture, the woman who could silence a room with a verse, the woman who married a man on national television and turned that marriage into a whole brand deal. Now picture that same woman a few years later, publicly separated, publicly betrayed, publicly humiliated on timelines she used to run. Picture her watching, in real time, the man she was told was her soul mate transfer the entire operation to somebody new without so much as a pause in the transition. That, family, is not heartbreak. That is a handoff. And Remy Ma knows it. Which is why every time Remy Ma opens her mouth in public, the room gets nervous. Because Remy Ma knows the script. Remy Ma has read the pages. Remy Ma sat in the middle of the operation for years. And now Remy Ma is a liability. And liabilities, in this industry, get replaced. Not silenced. Replaced. Because silence is expensive. Replacement is cheap. And that is where Claressa Shields walks into the frame. Right on cue. Right on schedule. Right on brand. A new face. A new story. A new set of tears. A new marketing engine cranking up. And the same specific man in the middle of it. Not by coincidence. By assignment. Now, before I close this out, I want to be fair. Because I do not want anybody clipping this and saying I only came at one side. Claressa Shields is a human being. Claressa Shields has real feelings. Claressa Shields is somebody's daughter and somebody's sister. And if any part of what Jaguar Wright is describing is even partially true, then Claressa Shields is not the villain in the story. Claressa Shields is the next chapter in a book that started long before her name was on the cover. And the tragedy of being the next chapter is that you do not get to know what happens to the previous chapters until you read them. And by the time you read them, you are already 3/4 of the way through your own. So I hope, for Claressa Shields' sake, that she rewinds Jaguar Wright's interview. I hope Claressa Shields sits down in a quiet room with the phone off. I hope Claressa Shields listens to the whole thing all the way through. Because if there is a chance that the man sitting closest to her is running an operation and not a relationship, she deserves to hear it from a woman who has nothing to gain by warning her. Jaguar Wright is not signed to a label that competes with him. Jaguar Wright is not angling for a promotion. Jaguar Wright is not pitching a project. Jaguar Wright is standing in front of a camera telling the woman she has never met that her life may not be her own. That is not clout chasing. That is a hand extended. Whether Claressa Shields takes that hand or slaps it away, that is her choice. But the offer is on the table. Now let us zoom all the way out for a second, because this whole conversation is not really about Claressa Shields, and it is not really about Papoose, and it is not really about Remy Ma. This conversation is about every woman on your timeline right now who thinks the man next to her is her partner when he might actually be her supervisor. This conversation is about every rising star who has been told, "Congratulations, you have arrived. You are family now. We take care of our own." While behind the scenes a group of men in a room decides where you go next, who you sit next to, who you feud with, who you promote, who you cut off, when you drop, when you disappear, and who replaces you when your timer runs out. That system does not have a face. That system does not have a headquarters. That system runs on middle managers who look like husbands. That system runs on brand deals that look like love stories. That system runs on public appearances that look like organic moments. And every time you clap for the rollout, you are voting for the next handoff. So when Jaguar Wright said what she said, she was not gossiping. Jaguar Wright was blowing a whistle, and you can hate the pitch of that whistle all you want. But once you have heard it, you cannot claim you did not. Now here is where I turn it back over to you, because this channel is not a monologue. This channel is a table, and you are sitting at it. 2 things I need you to answer for me down in the comments before you scroll away. Number 1. Is the handler theory a legitimate explanation for what we are watching in real time? Or are we handing too much power to one man's influence over a fully grown Olympic athlete? Take a side. Show your work. Number 2. Maserati Bud, from the closest chair in the room, said no when asked if this couple is in love. Do you think that no is the most accurate word we have heard in this entire cycle? Or do you think Maserati Bud has his own agenda for saying it? Drop your answers below. Argue with each other in the replies. Bring your evidence. Because this comment section is going to move fast today. And before I let you go, I want to leave you with one last thought. And this is the one I want you to sit with tonight. Every relationship in the public eye is a story somebody is telling. The question you have to ask yourself every time you consume one of these public love stories is a simple one. Who is holding the pen? Because the person who holds the pen decides who lives, who dies, who wins, who loses, and who gets rewritten when the plot stops working. And in this specific story, the person holding the pen does not appear to be either of the people whose names are on the cover. Remy Ma is the cast iron skillet. Claressa Shields is the paper plate. Papoose is the middle manager. And somewhere behind all of them, in a room without a nameplate on the door, sits the person who signs the paychecks. Jaguar Wright looked at the whole picture, drew a straight line between the dots, and read the map out loud. Maserati Bud, from the front row, confirmed the geography with one word. Remy Ma, from the wreckage, keeps trying to warn the woman replacing her without saying too much on the record. And Claressa Shields, so far, keeps defending the arrangement like her career depends on it, which, if any of this is true, it very much does. You want the truth of this whole situation summed up in a single line. Here it is. When a woman is being used, she defends her user louder than anybody else in the room, and the people trying to save her sound like the enemies. That is the whole formula. That is the whole business model. That is the whole story. So next time you see Claressa Shields go live and start crying about somebody attacking her relationship, do not roll your eyes and scroll past. Ask yourself who benefits from that live. Ask yourself who monetized those tears. Ask yourself who is holding the camera. Because the camera, family, is always the tell. And when the camera keeps pointing at the same woman crying about the same man defending the same story on the same schedule, you are not watching a relationship. You are watching a franchise. I'm going to leave it right there because my throat is starting to burn from how deep this one went. If you made it this far, you already know the drill. Hit that subscribe button if you are not already on the roster. Smash that like so this video punches through the algorithm and lands on the right timelines. Share this with the friend who still thinks it is just a love story. And meet me in the comments so we can dig into it together. The kettle stays whistling, the receipts stay printing, and I will catch you in the very next one.